Hey BookTube, welcome back to the History Shelf. My name is Peg, and today I wanted to share with you some of my recent New York Review of Book Classics acquisitions. I picked up, 8 or 9 books from recent flash sales that they've had, although they haven't been recent. They did have a recent World War II history and fiction sale, but I have most of those that I want already. So, but these are books I picked up a while ago. I have just not filmed them, and I know that these are very popular with a lot of booktubers. So I just wanted to go ahead and film this quick video to show you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books. I got 8 books. Okay, so I'm adding to my collection, and let's start with, I've been collecting this Russian writer's work now for a little while, and I think this was the most recent one that I haven't gotten, and I think this might have been one I bought special from an email where it was just this book that was on sale, but I bought it. And this is Red Pyramid, Selected Stories by Vladimir Sorokin, with an introduction by Will Self. And Will Self, a well-known author, contemporary literature, contemporary fiction author. He's got a new book coming out. I just had a reviewer, I signed it for a reviewer for our historical novels review. Elaine is the name of the new book. But anyway, Will Self is introducing this. So let's give you a little background on Vladimir Sorokin and this collection of short stories. Isn't Daisy sweet? She's D and the B, defending the block. She's keeping an eye out. Martine has taken Boomer to the vet to have his stitches removed. So they've been removed and they're on their way home. So I'm trying to film this video before she pulls up, and then Daisy goes crazy. Extended comic turns like The Q and relentless mind-bending genre-shredding extravaganzas like Ice Trilogy have established Vladimir Sorokin as a master of the contemporary novel. It is to Sorokin's short fiction, however, that readers must turn to encounter the wildest and most unsettling of his inventions and provocations. Sorokin is a virtuoso of parody and pastiche, as well as a poet of the black sites where the human soul stands exposed to its own incontinent desires. And Red Pyramid spans the whole of his career, from his emergence in the Soviet Union as a member of Moscow's artistic underground to his late preeminence as an observer and interpreter of the Putin era, with its squalid parade of gruesome folly and unhinged violence. That's some pretty writing right there. Included here are queasy tour de forces like the early Obelisk, a story as scatological as it is conceptual. Oh no. The notorious A Month in Dachau, which earned Sorokin his sobriquet as the Russian Sade. As the Russian Sade, like Marquis de Sade. And profoundly unsettling texts like Tiny Tim, where tenderness is inseparable from horror. So these stories have appeared in The New Yorker, Harper's Magazine, The Baffler, and N+1, and this is the first time they have been collected in English. So I'm glad to have these. Some of these stories sound like they're perfect for reading around Halloween. But I will add that to my other books that I've been collecting with Sorokin. Actually, these two. Okay, so I've got another book by Sorokin. So I think what I did was they released these two in a special email, and I had like a 15% off coupon, so I bought both. So the other new one we have here is Blue Lard by Vladimir Sorokin, translated by Max Lawton. Blue Lard. Let's get into it. What is this one about? Blue lard is an act of desecration. Blue lard is what's left after the towering masterpieces of Russian literature have been blown to smithereens. The most graphic, shocking, controversial, and celebrated book to be published in Russia since the end of communism. Yes. The rest of this sounds so good. Denounced as an abomination on publication in 1999. A crowd of angry Putin supporters gathered in front of Moscow's Bolshoi Theater to toss shredded copies of Sorokin's books into an enormous papier-mâché toilet. That's great. This ferocious takedown of Russian greatness has since found its way into the canon of Russian literature itself. Isn't that fantastic? The book begins in a futuristic laboratory where genetic scientists speak in a dialect of Russian mixed with Chinese. There they work to clone famous Russian writers who are then made to produce texts in the style of their forebears. The goal of this script process is not the texts themselves, but the blue lard that collects in the small of their backs as they write. This substance is to be used to power reactors on the moon. That is, until a sect of devout nationalists break in to steal the blue lard, planning to send it back in time to an alternate version of the Soviet Union, one that exists on the margins of a Europe conquered by a long-haired Hitler with the ability to shoot electricity from his hands. What will come of this blue lard? Who will finally make use of its mysterious powers? Oh, wow. Max Lawton's translation of Blue Lard, the first into English, captures this key work in all its grotesque, havoc-making, horrifying, visceral intensity. So this should be fun. This should be a fun read. Blue Lard. A long-haired Hitler shooting electricity from his fingertips. Wow. What a nightmare. Okay, and then the next two books I picked up are from the same authors, Well. And I believe these go together. I'm just trying to figure out. This one is the sequel. Okay. All right, so I'm intrigued by this. I've never read anything by Richard Hughes, and in both books they are introduced by Hilary Mantel, who we know passed away. I think it was last year, unfortunately. But yeah, she introduces both of these books. But this is the first in the two books series. This is The Fox in the Attic by Richard Hughes. Just trying to get, okay, there we go. A tale of enormous suspense and growing horror. The Fox in the Attic is the widely acclaimed first part of Richard Hughes's monumental historical fiction, The Human Predicament. Set in the early 1920s, the book centers on Augustine, a young man from an aristocratic Welsh family who has come of age in the aftermath of World War I. Unjustly suspected of having had a hand in the murder of a young girl, Augustine takes refuge in the remote castle of Bavarian relatives. There, his hopeless love for his devout cousin Mitzi blinds him to the hate that will lead to the rise of German fascism. The book reaches a climax with a brilliant description of the Munich Putsch and a disturbingly intimate portrait of Adolf Hitler. Hopefully he doesn't have long hair in this one. The Fox in the Attic, like its no less remarkable sequel, which I'll show in a minute, offers a richly detailed Tolstoyan overview of the modern world in upheaval. At once a novel of ideas and an exploration of the dark spaces of the heart, it is a book in which the past returns in all its original uncertainty and strangeness. I love books or novels that have ideas at the heart of them. I eat them up. I want to be challenged. I want to have some deep thoughts while I'm reading a novel. I just don't want it to be, okay, I take that back. I read a lot of thrillers because in that case, I'm not there for the ideas. I'm there for the action. I'm there for the fun. I'm there for the release, the just entertainment. I want to be surprised. I want to have a puzzle. I want to, but like who done it and things like that. But when it comes to like literature and just straight up like contemporary fiction, I like it when it's about big things, big themes, big ideas. So I'm hoping that this lives up to everything I've read about it, because I'm really wanting to dive into both of these. Now, Richard Hughes, I don't know. He passed away in 1976. Okay. But yeah, it says here it's part of his monumental historical fiction, The Human Predicament. Well, as far as I know, the only two books that I have on this are the Fox in the Attic, and then the sequel, which is The Wooden Shepherdess. Okay. also introduced by Hilary Mantel. All right, so The Wooden Shepherdess is the sequel to The Fox in the Attic and the second volume of Hughes's monumental historical fiction, The Human Predicament. It opens with Hughes. Now, I don't know if it ends that. I don't know if there's another book to come with this. But anyway, it opens with Hughes's hero, Augustine, in Prohibition-era America. Just was waiting to see if that was Martina. I'm sorry. Where he is a bemused onlooker and an increasingly fascinated participant in a country intoxicated with sex, violence, and booze. In brilliant cinematic style, the book then moves to Germany, where the Nazi Party is gradually gaining in power, to the slums, mining towns, parliamentary backrooms, and great houses of a Britain teetering on the verge of class war, and to the wilds of the Atlas Mountains of Morocco. Ooh, that sounds good. The novel ends with a terrifying account of the Night of the Long Knives. I think this is what attracted me to both books. Just people wrestling with this rise of fascism in their time. As Hitler, so it's a terrifying account of the Night of the Long Knives as Hitler ruthlessly secures his hold upon Germany. Oh, okay, and now I have answers. I have answers around the human predicament. This new edition of The Wooden Shepherdess concludes with the 12 chapters that Hughes completed of the planned third volume of The Human Predicament, here published for the first time in America. So he never finished the third volume, and that's unfortunate. But you get the 12 chapters. I guess that's something. So yeah, Daisy, be good. So I picked up, should say, these two books by Richard Hughes. All right, what else do we have here? Daisy. I might have to pause, and if I do, I apologize. Okay, next book we have is Naked Earth by Eileen Chang, introduction by Perry Link. It's the focus is having a hard time picking up the red on the font, I think. But anyway, Naked Earth by Eileen Chang. Again, I mean, you'll find I just love books set around these big historical events, and especially in different countries. Set in the early years of Mao's China, Naked Earth is the story of two earnest young people confronting the grim realities of revolutionary change. Lu Tuan and Su Nan meet in the countryside after volunteering to assist in the New Land Reform Program. Eager to build a more just society, they are puzzled and shocked by the brutality, barely disguised corruption, and ruthless careerism they discover, but then quickly silenced by the barrage of propaganda and public criticism that is directed at anyone who appears to doubt a righteous cause. Joined together by the secret of their common dismay, they remain in touch when Liu departs to work on a newspaper in Peking, where Sunan eventually also moves. Something like love begins to grow between them, but then a new round of purges sweeps through the revolutionary ranks. One of the greatest and most loved of modern Chinese writers, Eileen Chang, illuminates the dark corners of the human existence with a style of disorienting beauty. Naked Earth, unavailable in English for more than 50 years, is a harrowing tale of perverted ideals, damaged souls, deepest loneliness, and terror. Yeah, I really have a... Peg's got the finger on the fun button with these, doesn't she? Wow. Yeah. What can I say? I'm weird. I like reading this stuff. Anything having to do with the human condition, how you can overcome and survive the diverse hells that the world creates. Yes, so I'm excited to, if you can believe it, to read this. But yeah, I'm glad to add this to my NYRB Classics collection. Continuing on, sticking with more another Chinese writer. Okay, I think so, yeah. This is Peach Blossom Paradise by I hope it's gay or J. I don't know how they pronounce the G like that in the Chinese, the Mandarin or whatever it is. Gayfei? Jeffei. Translated by Kanan Morris. This one went out of stock when I tried buying it a while ago in one of their flash sales, and it was out of stock. And I had to wait for it to come back, and it did. But I think it's a pretty popular title for people who like to read the NYRB classics. In 1898, reformist intellectuals in China persuaded the young emperor that it was time to transform his sclerotic empire into a prosperous modern state. The 100 Days reform that followed was a moment of unprecedented change and extraordinary hope, brought to an abrupt end by a bloody military coup. Dashed expectations would contribute to the revolutionary turn that Chinese history would soon take, leading in time to the deaths of millions. Peach Blossom Paradise, set at the time of the reform, is the story of Shumi, the daughter of a wealthy landowner and former government official who falls prey to insanity and disappears. Days later, a man with a gold cicada in his pocket turns up at his estate and is inexplicably welcomed as a relative. This mysterious man has a great vision of reforging China as an egalitarian utopia, and he will stop at nothing to make it real. It is his own plans, however, which come to nothing, and his little sister, Shumi, is left to take up arms against a Confucian world in which women are chattel. Daisy. Her campaign for change and her struggle to seize control over her own body are continually threatened by the violent whims of men who claim to be building paradise. So, doesn't that sound great? And it sounds like a very pro-woman type of story. It says here in the translator's note, Peach Blossom Paradise gives voice and presence to a brief span of Chinese history in which the millennia-old dynastic government had effectively died, but the famous and brutal movements that we frequently weave into China's tortuous narrative of modernity had not yet begun. To the reader, the specter of that history makes this novel's moment, the span between the failed 100 Days reform of 1898 and the final collapse of the last dynasty in 1911, feel like a quiet inhale, a calm before the storm. To that end, the author has blurred the lines between fiction and history even further by annotating significant places and people with information about their life and fate within the whirlwind of 20th century Chinese history. So there's a lot of footnotes because he says the author has placed these annotations in line with the main body of the narrative as is customary in Chinese novels. We present them here as footnotes. Okay, that's interesting. Footnotes. Not seeing too many. But anyway, Peach Blossom Paradise by Jeffei. All right. The next one I have is The Seventh Cross by Anna Seghers. Seghers? Translated by Margot Batower Dembo. It's kind of a dark cover. The Seventh Cross. Okay. Yeah. The Seventh Cross is one of the most powerful, popular, and influential novels of the 20th century. A hair-raising thriller that helped to alert the world to the grim realities of Nazi Germany, and that is no less exciting today than when it was first published in 1942. 7 political prisoners escape from a Nazi prison camp. In response, the camp commandant has 7 trees harshly pruned to resemble 7 crosses. They will serve as posts to torture each recaptured prisoner, and capture, of course, is certain. Meanwhile, the escapees split up and flee across Germany looking for such help and shelters they can find along the way, determined to reach the border. Anna Seghers' novel is not only a supremely suspenseful story of flight and pursuit, but also a detailed portrait of a nation in the grip and thrall of totalitarianism. And again, this new translation makes the complete text of this great political novel available in English for the first time. So The Seventh Cross by Anna Segers. And then the last. Got a nice short video for you today. I first saw this on Johnny Keene's channel. I'm sure he's done reading it by now, but when I first saw it on his channel, he was working his way through it, and I'm like, this sounds fantastic. I want to get this book because I love letters. I love books that just collect letters from famous artists, writers, whatever, politicians, generals. I love reading letter collections, and this is the letters of Gustave Flaubert. I've done it again, Flaubert. Of Gustave Flaubert, edited and translated by Francis Stigmuller. Nice big chunkster. And of course, I just love the artwork that they select for so many of these covers. They're so great. Here we go. If there is one article of faith that dominates the credo of Gustave Flaubert's correspondence, Francis Stigmuller writes in the introduction, it is that the function of great art is not to provide answers. The letters of Gustave Flaubert is above all a record of the intransigent questions, personal, political, artistic, with which Flaubert struggled throughout his life. Here we have his youthful, sensual outpourings to his mistress, the poet Louise Colette, and as he advances, still unknown, into his 30s, the wrestle to write Madame Bovary. And now someone's mowing their lawn out there. I have the window open. We hear too of his life-changing trip to Egypt, as described to family and friends, and then there are lively exchanges with Baudelaire, with the influential critic Sainte-Beuve, and with Guy de Maupassant, his young protege. Flaubert's letters to George Sand reveal her as the great confidant of his later years. Stigmuller's book, a classic in its own right, is both a splendid life of Flaubert in his own words and the Ars Poetica of the master who laid the foundations for modern writers from James Joyce to Lydia Davis. Originally issued in 2 volumes, this book appears here for the first time under a single cover. So, there you have it. And that, my friends, is my most recent collection of NYRB classics. Yeah, and there goes my neighbor's mowing his lawn. Hi, Sean. There they are. A nice, beautiful stack to add to my corner in my bedroom that has the wall-mounted shelves. I think I've shown pictures of it on the channel or on my social media. You can see I've got them all kind of stacked on free-floating shelves with the spine showing. So it's very colorful corner in my bedroom with all of the wonderful different colors that the NYRB Classics spine covers. All just different colors. It's so vibrant. It's really beautiful. Anyway, this was a very chill video. I needed to start the week off. Well, it's Tuesday, but I needed to start it off chill. There's a lot going on at the History Shelf this month. But let me know what you think of these titles, and if you have them, if you've read them, and what you think, if you're familiar with some of these authors' work, if you have some inside information, inside baseball as it were, I would love to hear about it. But in the meantime, I'm going to wrap it up and get Daisy away from the window before she leaps out and does a flying tackle for my neighbor. All right, guys, thanks for joining me here at the History Shelf. It's always nice to see you guys, talk to you, and hear from you. So until next time, be safe, be well. Bye-bye.